Good morning, and this is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. We take a half hour every week and talk about good things that are happening in the community. Katy, Huckle, my co-host, and there was recently a change of guard and leadership at the Cadillac Salvation Army office.
Yes, there was. And when you talk about things that are good, does it get any gooder than the Salvation Army?
It
doesn't.
I don't know if gooder is proper English, but I'm good with it.
It doesn't. I mean, these guys, they really, what does your van say, Greg?
Doing the most good. Hand to man, heart to God. Heart to God, hand to man. Yeah.
Heart to God, hand to man. Greg Bock is in the studio with us. He is the new lieutenant of the Salvation Army. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, your better half is not here today. Your co-leader, your co-conspirator, Elizabeth, is not here today.
You got it right, my better half, too. That's what she is. She's absolutely my better half.
Well, I'm glad we've got that established. Yes.
So how long have you been in the post in Salvation Army in Cadillac?
In Cadillac, we've been here since the end of June.
Okay. So you got about 4 or 5 weeks in.
Yeah. We got here. My wife got COVID. So,
gosh.
Yeah,
well,
it was
welcome.
It was one of those things where I came in ready to go, ready to get to it, and then we all had a quarantine for 5 days. So, but I mean, you can quarantine in the middle of the lake on a kayak. So that's what I did. I went on a kayak on Lake Mitchell and just kind of floated while she, was at home.
Rehabbing, healing.
Yeah. I mean, I checked on her. I called in and said, "Hey, how are you feeling?" I was a good husband. I'm just saying, I quarantined in a Cadillac in a kayak.
Yeah, that's a healthy way to do it.
Right.
Where did you come from?
I came from Muscatine, Iowa.
Whoa.
So there's two big river bends on the Mississippi River. One's in Muscatine and one's in Alton, Illinois. Okay. My hometown is Alton, Illinois.
Okay.
And our first appointment as officers in Salvation Army was in Muscatine, Iowa, which is known as the pearl button capital of the world. 1/3 of the world's pearl buttons were made in Muscatine, Iowa, right out of the Mississippi River with mother of pearl shell.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So if you have a grandparent that has a button collection, I guarantee you she probably has some pearl buttons, and they were probably made in Muscatine.
Awesome.
Yeah, also known for their watermelons, Muscatine melons.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So question, because I'm not sure our listeners know, and this was news to me, you get a calling, don't you?
Yep.
Can you tell us how that works?
Absolutely. So we were in ministry with the Assemblies of God before we became Salvation Army officers. So we worked in Sheboygan, actually. So we were in Northern Michigan before. We were in Sheboygan for 6 years.
Beautiful.
And I actually worked for a lawyer in town. I worked for Shepler's Mackinac Island Ferry. What better job in the summer than to work for Shepler's, that beautiful Straits of Mackinac.
Right.
And I managed Kmart. And,
what? Oh boy!
Yeah, I was in management. I didn't manage the store. I helped manage evening time. A store.
You've got
floor
quite
manager.
A toolbox, Greg.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Army called and they said, "We remember when you first moved to Sheboygan, and you interviewed for a food pantry position." And I didn't even get it.
Oh,
I wasn't even good enough back then to work at the Salvation Army. Like, didn't even get it. So, but yeah, I ended up managing transition homes for Salvation Army up there. And I just really felt like God leading us to become officers for Salvation Army. And it really is. This is a calling that you have to know. This is what God has called you to do. Because there's so many different things. Someone asked me in Muscatine, what's your typical day like? And I said, you know what? I can start out my day just planned out what I think it's going to look like, and it can be completely different.
It's funny because I've met a few officers over the years, and one thing you'll never hear someone from the Salvation Army say is, "That's not my job." It just isn't in your vocabulary.
Yeah, no.
You help everybody and anybody.
Absolutely.
So I mean, your typical day, your average day. Can you give us just an idea of what it looked?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So I started out yesterday. Went to the office and had some meetings with an advisory board member, met somebody from Grand Rapids, made some cool plans about just future vision, kind of what we want to do with Salvation Army, how to really engage more, embed ourselves in the community more. Really thought it was going, great meeting. So I was in my uniform. Within 30 minutes, I was walking around the Many Blessings dairy farm in my uniform with my tie, my white shirt, my pants, with John Jones, advisory board member, JJ. And I thought, you know what? if anybody asks me what my day was like, I went from having a meeting with a very influential person in town to walking around a dairy farm. So it really can go from, being in the office to helping the homeless. I had a friend one time that says that he was called to a meeting, a very important meeting, and on the way he could walking distance. On the way to this meeting, he sat with a homeless person on the side of the road, talking about where he could get shelter, food, how we could help him. And then he said 10 minutes later, he was in the office of the President of the United States of America.
Isn't that
That's the office he got called to go in a meeting to. Yeah, I mean, you could go from the homeless to the most powerful office in the world. That's the influence and the impact of the Red Shield of the Salvation Army.
Okay.
Yeah, so typical day, you could be spending it with a homeless person, or you could be, in the office of the president. Here in Cadillac, I could be cleaning my office and then on the radio. I mean, it's great. It's great.
Can you tell us about your outreach?
Yes. So we right now we have our food pantry Monday through Friday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. No appointment necessary. We have social service programs. So we of course have utility assistance, rental assistance, prescription assistance for like prescription drugs. We have the Pathway of Hope program, which that program is really cool. If you haven't heard of Pathway of Hope, it's really designed for parents with kids that just have this month-to-month state of emergency kind of mode of operation.
Can't get ahead.
Or maybe it's been a generational problem where mom was in poverty, grandpa were in poverty, their grandparents were in poverty. This is as good as it's going to get from me. And we go, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's okay to not be okay, but you don't have to stay that way.
Right.
Is what we tell people. So Pathway of Hope really helps identify the root factors of what keeps people kind of in that mindset. Okay. And we come alongside of them, walk through life with them, help them with repairs of the car repairs, help them with just normal things you wouldn't necessarily help regular clients with if you enroll in Pathway of Hope program, because we want to see somebody go from coming in for assistance monthly to really being stable and on their feet, being able to be productive contributors of society, not so much consumers of assistance, but really, and I tell my staff all the time, when somebody walks through our doors, what I don't want to hear is, "Oh, you're here again?" No, I want them to know that there's no shame in asking for help. The struggle is real for everybody right now, right? Mm-hmm. So our assistance programs are designed, and my heart for the mission here, while we're in charge anyway, is to let people know that if they need anything, however we can help make their life better. This is why so many people give in the Red Kettle at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. They write that check in the mail each month to give to Salvation Army, so we can be there to meet real needs for real people in real time right here in our own neighborhoods.
Amazing. It sounds like Teach a Man to Fish, Pathways of Hope.
Right.
Teach a Man to Fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. When I served on the Oasis Board of Directors, I learned that we partnered often with the Salvation Army when it came to someone in a state of emergency and the shelter is full and someone needs a bed, someone needs a place to sleep. Yeah. Can you tell us about that emergency program? Because you are the only nonprofit that I'm aware of that will get a call at whatever time of night and somehow you guys make it happen. Can you tell us about?
So we work closely now with New Hope, and they have I just toured. So I'm still new to town. I just toured their shelter the other day, so I know that they're working to get their women's side open, their family shelter open. So that's a cool thing in town. If you haven't toured that, if you're listening, you haven't really gotten to know what that is, how it works, I encourage you to reach out to New Hope and learn how that works. But you're right. Sometimes shelters get full. Mm-hmm. Sometimes emergencies happen, right? House fires, anything could happen, right? Mm-hmm. Where they can't remain in their home, and where are they going to go? So what we get to do at Salvation Army is we get to really look at their case, look at their situation, and say, how can we really help make the difference right here, right now in their life, and then carry that forward so they're not just left out to dry. They're not just like, hey, we're helping you tonight, but good luck tomorrow. No, we ain't doing that. We really want to walk through life with people, make their life better in the moment and in the future, in the present. So we can put them up in a hotel. We can help. We can work with different agencies in town if they have places to stay, we can refer there. One thing that is my heart is that when somebody calls in for help and we can't assist them, like, well, we don't really do that. I don't just want to give them a number and say, here you go, call them if hopefully you get through. No. I want to be like a one-stop shop. Mm-hmm. If you need help and we can't, that's something we don't really specialize in, but we might know somebody who will, and we'll make that phone call with you in our office to make sure the continuation of service will happen. So I want to, our purpose here in town is to honor RC, Major RC,
yes.
his late wife, Miranda. I mean, I've heard stories of the way the community surrounded RC and his 5 kids when Miranda passed away. Mm-hmm. And what a tragedy. I can't imagine having RC's life the last few years. I mean, but he's served this community very well, very valiantly, very faithfully. Kiwanis, Rotary, he never missed a beat. Yes. With that stuff. So our heart is to honor their legacy, their service here, but to really engage like never before and serve like never before. Let people know the Army is alive, we're well, we're here to serve, and nothing's going to stop us from helping, to love beyond anything people may face.
I would not bet against this man, Rich.
No. I hear the passion in your voice, Greg, and so obviously you know what has happened with the Salvation Army here in Cadillac before. You're already speaking passionately about what your plans are to increase the reach. What are they?
Yeah, so really it's to connect. It's to get to know. We have an advisory board member, John Jones. Anywhere I've gone in town, my first week I was here, I met the chamber assistant director. The director got married and was on her honeymoon. I've met people from the city. I went to the community foundation, met them, met the newspaper, and everywhere I've gone, they say, do you know JJ? JJ's your biggest supporter in town, John Jones. So it's working with our advisory board who have those connections to really see how we fit in, right? I don't want to do a bunch of things mediocre. I don't want to come here and go, let's do this and that and this and that, and 1, duplicate service, and 2, do them very just kind of like, just getting by. People go, well, yeah, they do an okay job. No. I want to look at the need study, see where we fit in, and maybe do a few things very, very well. That also includes our thrift store. It also includes looking at how we can better serve the community through our offerings at the thrift store. Do we need to lower prices? Do we need to have more sales? Do we need to, add more staff? Do we need to find a different location? We're going to look at everything we do to make sure that, one, it's missional. To make sure that the Salvation Army, first and foremost, we're not an army of good. We are an army of good, right? We're the do-gooders.
Yes.
But our name is not the do-good army. It's not the volunteer army. It's the Salvation Army. So it really is. Our mission says our message is based on the Bible. Our ministry is motivated by the love of God. And our mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to preach human needs, to meet human needs in his name without discrimination. So to keep the main thing is to look at people's situation, meet their physical needs, and look at their heart and see how we can help their soul. How can we help their soul care? How can we lead them to faith? So we want to, when I say serve like never before, really look at neighborhoods. How are we embedded into neighborhoods? How are we infiltrated into the housing projects? What needs are going unmet? What I don't want to hear is that there is a kid going to bed hungry because the parents didn't know where to go get food. I know there's a need right now for a feeding program. The Baptist Church, thank God for 30 plus years, right, had this feeding program. How can we come alongside them and restart it or kind of implement it on our own? How can we look at different ways to help people, maybe if they're smokers and they want to stop smoking? How can we help them get into smoking cessation classes or learn how to beat addictions, right? Because drug use in Cadillac is a problem, right?
Yes.
How can we coordinate with services or with individuals who just go, I'm lost. I'm so overwhelmed by my addiction. Maybe my life would be so much better if I got this one little piece right. Well, it's our job as Salvation Army to say, let's help identify that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let's help get you cleaned up. Let's help make that piece fit back into your life good. And if that's referring them to our adult rehabilitation center in Grand Rapids or Detroit, we're going to do it. We're going to make sure that we can do it. So really it's looking at an overall picture, overall view of what's currently happening, what organization is serving the population in different ways, and where we fit in and where we can fit in well and do our job very well.
Everything you just said sounds like a massive undertaking.
Yes.
How would you compartmentalize?
You know what? It is. And JJ calls me on the phone and he goes, man, you got me fired up again to help serve the needy in our community. But there's a lot you want to do. How in the world are you going to do it? And I said, my wife and I sometimes, we live in the clouds often, and sometimes we got to pull each other down by our ankles, grab her ankles, we'll pull her down, and she'll grab me and say, wait a second, get back in line here, come back down to reality. And so our meeting yesterday was about what's our top 3 priorities that we want to see happen right now. And one, we want to look at how we can make our thrift store more effective. How can people who don't have what they need, right, come to Salvation Army and say, I really need clothes for an interview. I can't afford it. Do you have clothing? We sure do. We have great clothes at Salvation Army. Here you go. God bless you. It's free. Let us know how the interview goes, and if we can help you with more clothes for your job you might get. How can we do that? So it does get a little overwhelmed because I'm a pretty outgoing, energetic, extroverted person.
We haven't noticed.
Right.
Well, Greg, I will tell you, you know how in malls they call them anchor stores?
Yeah.
Your Saks Fifth Avenue, your Nordstrom's, whatever.
Sure.
You are an anchor nonprofit here in Cadillac, meaning a big one.
Yeah.
And years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, in the middle of COVID, Project Christmas is a huge undertaking for families that need help with Christmas, not only with gifts, but with mittens and boots and meals and things like that. And the nonprofit community looked at each other and went, uh-oh, how are we going to pull this off in the middle of COVID, whatever.
Yeah.
It was the Salvation Army, I'm getting the chills as I say this, that took over and made Project Christmas happen for over 300 families. Isn't it, Rich?
Yeah.
And so I feel like you're in a relay and RC handed you the baton and you're going to go for it with in the race.
In case I hadn't noticed, Christmas is our jam. Christmas is our jam. That's what we do. We do well. We do Christmas well.
Uh-huh.
And however we can take those that aren't served through Project Christmas or maybe miss the deadline for them, how we can serve those people at Christmas time and more, we're going to do it. Leftover toys. I know that we have, that's always been a thing. A lot of communities, the Army have leftover toys at Christmas time. What do we do with them? Do we hang on to next year? My thought is this: when the donor gives it at Christmas time, the intent is to be given out at Christmas time. So in Sheboygan, for example, when we had leftover Star Wars, remember when Star Wars had new releases at Christmas Eve? Like the new movie came out Christmas Eve. Midnight or 10 o'clock Christmas Eve, people were in line.
Yes.
Or Christmas night or something.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. So what I would do in Sheboygan is I would go find all the leftover Star Wars toys. And I go to the Kingston Theater in my Salvation Army EDS vest, right? In this Yoda Christmas hat. I had a Kmart hat at one point too. And I would go and I just give a toy to a kid in line and to watch them light up. Oh my goodness, I have a Star Wars toy. I'm going to see new Star Wars. Thank you so much. And the families would reach in their pockets and I said, no. This isn't about that. It's not about us getting something. We're blessed with all this to just give. Right. To just give, and that's what it's about for me. It's to just watch the joy spark in somebody's life again. That it's, these last 2 years have just been so tough.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the Red Kettle campaign.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how is that doing nationally? Is it still on fire? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is still on. Each year we see record giving.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, each year we see people that maybe haven't given in the past because they might not have known. Maybe they just thought our Salvation Army or Salvation Army out there was just a Red Kettle in a thrift store. Like all they know about us is that we do red kettles at Christmas time and we got at thrift stores. Maybe they didn't know about what we do year round. You know, we have the ARCs, the adult rehab centers. We have day camp programs, after school programs. We have youth programs, senior ministries. We have music schools, so many different aspects that people just don't know about. And we've seen them discover these last 2 years and give on levels they've never given before. Now, giving fatigue was a real thing. It was a real thing. And in 2020, we saw numbers like we've never seen before. I mean, my last location in Muscatine, Iowa, the goal was 190. We brought in like $360,000 that year at Christmas time.
And why?
It's crazy. It was because we were out there during COVID being the Salvation Army.
Okay.
We were serving people, like 1,500 people a week. We were giving them groceries, giving them hot meals, telling them, if you don't feel safe out there, stay home and stay safe. Let us go and help you. If you are choosing between your food or your prescriptions, get your prescriptions. Let us get your food for you. Let us deliver groceries to your house. We have donors that gave food. I mean, semi-truckloads of food. And we saw record giving at Christmas time because people knew what we did throughout the year. They saw that and they knew that impact it was having on people's lives.
You're branded. You're branded with those red kettles. And for me, it's comforting to see your bell ringers out. You know, it's something normal during a time that was very abnormal.
Yeah.
And the holidays is when everyone wants to go back to traditions and things like that. And all of a sudden people weren't getting together. Yep. And here you guys were out ringing the bells.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So people know me in Muscatine and in Sheboygan as the guy that slept in the giant red kettle. So Moran Ironworks in Onaway built Petoskey this giant red kettle. It's on a trailer. And I took it to Sheboygan my last year there. I lived in it for 4 nights and raised $10,000. I had the same one built in Muscatine, and they hadn't met the kettle goal there in years.
Did people bring you dinner? I mean, how does that?
That's the cool, and that's what that's the cool thing right there. That gets me going. I know you said 30 minutes, bro, but let me tell you something. I got 21 right there. So listen. So the cool thing was people that couldn't afford to give. Like I was living, and people say, "Well, do you live there overnight?" I certainly do. I sleep out in the cold, in the elements, because if we can stand in the gap or sleep in the gap in the cold for people now, so they won't have to later on, we'll do it. And the cool thing about that was in Sheboygan and in Muscatine, I experienced this. People would say, "You know, man, we saw you on the news. We read your article in the newspaper. We saw you on Facebook Live, and while we can't afford to give money." Well, I get goosebumps talking about it. It's so moving.
Yeah.
Will you accept a plate of our family dinner from tonight?
Oh, wow.
To help you stay warm up there. And they'd say, come on up here and give it to me. You know, they'd climb up in the kettle, take pictures. And I'd sit there and I wouldn't say, thank you very much, I'll eat it later. I'd eat it right then to let them know, no, this is sustaining for me. And if I can be sustained because of your gift of your family food from your dinner, it's going to sustain somebody a month from now, 10 months from now, a year from now, because they wanted to give family food to me.
I want you to do that in Cadillac. We need to get the red kettle.
We can get one built for Cadillac. Yeah. We can borrow Petoskey's and save us some money to borrow Petoskey's.
Let's do. I mean, wouldn't we have fun with that, Rich? Yeah. I deliver one of my Katy cakes up there to you.
You have Katy cakes?
Yes.
What's involved in these Katy cakes? I need to hang around here more.
Yes. Okay, well, I'll show you my chart.
Yes.
You can pick which one, and I will deliver it to the red kettle.
Absolutely.
I think that's servant leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're willing to sleep in. What does your wife say when you make these commitments?
So the first time I did it in Sheboygan.
Yike.
I come home and I told everybody that I was doing this, right? Yeah. I told everyone, I'm going to sleep in a giant, my boss from Southfield, I said, hey, I'm going to sleep in a giant red kettle. The colonel over our area for Salvation Army, I said, I'm going to sleep in a giant red kettle. And they saw the kettle. It just went over their heads. They didn't know I was actually going to sleep in the kettle. So my wife calls me, she says, where are you at? It's almost bedtime. I said, well, I told you, after the Christmas parade in Sheboygan, I'm sleeping in the giant red kettle. And I did. So she knows that I'm the voice, I'm the face, I'm the hands, I'm the feet. She is absolutely wonderfully skilled at admin, working in the office, taking care of employees, handling that stuff. It's that team that works really well, and I can be out there doing this kind of stuff. So she knows that I'm there's a little bit of crazy in here as well. So she loves me anyway, and she forgave me because I know I told her, but She just didn't, she must not have remembered.
Where are you? I'm sleeping in the Red Kennel in the
Right.
middle of the winter
in
in downtown Sheboygan.
And people, so I went up with very little.
Yeah.
I went up with like one of those really thin mats. And people would say, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm sleeping in the kennel. Well, why? And I got to advocate for people in need.
Yeah.
And then they'd bring me a sleeping bag.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up with almost nothing, and everything I used throughout that week or 7 days I'm up there, or even, it can go shorter or longer, is given by people that want to know why we're doing it. And once they find out, want to help Salvation Army to love beyond anything people may face and to do the most good for them.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Good stuff. In the few minutes we have left, you have obviously not a lot of experience with Cadillac yet. You're still in your initial weeks. What's your impression of our town been so far?
I love it. So when my divisional commander, so the lady who was over me in Muscatine, called, so they meet together in about February, March, and they meet together in Chicago, and they choose where people are going to move to, right?
Okay.
It's time for them to move. We got to move because health issues with my wife's family. So Major Beth Petrie, so her maiden name was Hull. Her dad served here as an officer in Salvation Army long ago. Wow. She called and she said, "You're my favorite call today because I get to tell you where you're serving in my hometown of Cadillac, Michigan." And I was like the car Cadillac? She's like, "Yeah, it smelled like that, but it's beautiful. There's beautiful lakes there. There's outdoor stuff. You'll absolutely love it." So it wasn't like you get to go here. The phone call was full of excitement and energy. When I got here, I walked into a staff excited and energized. I walked into a community. Wherever I go wearing the uniform, they're like, "Oh, you're Salvation Army. We just love the Army and what you guys do in this town." Mm-hmm. So I walked into excitement and energy, and I'm not that much of an excitable guy. I am. I go crazy over this kind of stuff. I love the work of the Army, and I like to see the light bulb go bing above somebody's head when they just figure out how we serve in what things we do that they might not even think about. Help people get wood for heating their homes in the wintertime. This is those things people don't really kind of relate because maybe they don't have to, But it's been a beautiful experience so far.
It sounds to me like you've had open arms, and that's a credit to your predecessors.
Yeah, it really is. Going from I knew Jeff Eddy very, very, very well. They enrolled me as a soldier in Salvation Army up in Sheboygan. I wasn't even involved as a soldier in the Salvation Army when I decided to join to become an officer. I had to enroll in my church. And then, so I knew them very well. I didn't know the Nances. I met her this last week at camp. Mm-hmm. And of course, I met RC and his awesome kids at camp as well this last week. But you're absolutely right. The people, when you're an officer, you don't do it for like the accolades. You don't do it for the big money because there is no big money that we make.
Right.
But the Army takes very, very, very good care of us. I will say that. Our house, our car, they take good care of us. So our only sole purpose as officers in Salvation Army is to make sure people's needs are met, to make sure that their life is good, help make their life better, and to point them to Jesus. Like that's our sole purpose as officers, is to just serve suffering humanity and to meet needs.
So what can people best do right now? Because the Red Kettle campaign is still several months off. What can people do best right now? Yes.
2 ways. I would say give of your time. If you want to volunteer, let us know. Food pantry, we're going to do more in the community. We want to get out there with collect school supplies, give backpacks out. We want to do that kind of stuff. Donate to the thrift store. Now I know there might have been different experiences in the past, but we're new. We're going to make sure that we get this stuff right. So I've talked to the management team at the thrift store and the staff. They're all on board. Give your if you have nice furniture, lightly used stuff, or maybe well-used stuff that's in good condition, let us know. We'll come pick it up from your house even. We have vans that can do that. And then, just stop by and say hi. I would love to meet people. I made a post in the Overheard Cadillac page back when I was still in Muscatine, and I said, I'm excited to be there. When you see me out in the community, stop me and say hi because I want to know you.
I saw that post, and how many people responded to you?
A ton. there were a ton of people. And so when you're out in the community, they say, "Oh, you're the guy from Facebook. Good. I saw you." So it's been great. This has been a wonderful experience so far.
How do we connect with the Salvation Army?
Yeah, you can on Sunday mornings, 11 o'clock. We have services there. The Army is open. Our office is open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm in the office before and after those hours most times, or on Facebook at the Salvation Army Cadillac.
All right.
Yeah.
It has been a thrill to meet you, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much.
I cannot wait to see what you are going to do. I can't wait.
Me either.
Welcome to Cadillac, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Lieutenant Greg Bock from the Cadillac Salvation Army, our guest this morning on Cadillac Unscripted. Next week, more local chat. I believe we have Deb Ballard. Right?
We do power the purse to support Munson Hospital.
Join us next week, same time, same station. It's sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY.